listening to Reverb Radio.
Hey yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb.
Yeah. J Will.
Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt. Been for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long pass. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J Will. Welcome, repping it,
J Will.
been for a repping it, been for a
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Wrestling Reverb here on Reverb Radio. We're in the official launch week of Reverb Radio, and it seems to be going fairly well. I've also been doing a heap of Twitch streams this week, and they've been doing better than I've ever expected. So I'm in a good space at the moment. I'm feeling good. Kevin is here as well, of course. He's had a busy day at work, but he's ready to talk some wrestling. Kev, how is things?
Oh yeah, like you said, long day, busy day, wild day at work. Just par for the course though with when you're a reporter. So I'm not nothing too crazy, but I was that last hour or so I was like, oh man, I just want to go home and do this. So I'm looking forward to talking some graps.
Yeah, I'm just ready to. I've only been at work for a few hours this morning, but you've had a whole day, so I'm probably feeling way more refreshed than you are, but we'll talk some wrestling. We're going to do some half-year wrestling awards, kind of, in our own little spin on it. I know that WWE had something with the bump this week, which was completely unplanned, but hey, that's how it works. So we'll just go over some of our matches that we've enjoyed this year, who we think's, kind of dominated the wrestling scene, whether it be WWE or anything, because I know, Kev, you've been watching some New Japan, and we've been keeping our eyes on AEW and everything else going on, so we'll just run through that in a second, but I do have to take the time. Let's first and foremost talk about one Kairi Sane, officially, I know the rumors were rampant for a while, but officially leaving WWE this week, in, in a heartwarming way. She seemed to be very loved by everybody, which is really nice, so on behalf of Kevin and myself, Kevin will add to this as well, thank you, Kairi Sane, for everything. It was 3 years. It flew by so quickly, but it was 3 years of just pure joy. And I feel like, I know some people will say other things, but I feel like she had a nice little run in WWE, and I'm glad that she kind of ticked that box to just say, I worked for WWE for 3 years. I was an NXT champion. I was a tag team champion. I got to work alongside, I'm assuming one of her best friends in Asuka. So it's just nice to see, and they put up a nice little farewell video on their YouTube channel, and she just seemed very respected and very loved. So it's just, I don't know, it's nice to see people end their careers just in a way that's like, okay, we've had a nice little time here. It seems to be fairly open if she was ever to decide one day that maybe she wants to wrestle again for WWE, but I'm just happy for her, and I'm, of course, selfishly sad to see her go. But Kevin, anything you want to add?
Yeah, just that it is good to see someone leaving on good terms. And we've seen a lot of, sort of, I don't want to say bitter, but, not a lot of people have left the company recently, and it hasn't been under the best of circumstances. And a lot of people are, airing grievances. A lot of people seem to leave WWE, go elsewhere, and then not have great reviews of their time in the company. And whether or not that's warranted is not for me to say, because I don't work for WWE. But it is good to see they really did pull out all the stops for Kairi as she's heading out the door here. It seems like she's just a great person, and it's been reflected in her character this whole time. The Pirate Princess, when she came in onto the scene in the first Mae Young Classic, I was like, wow, I was just drawn to this woman. She was so unique. She brought really the Joshi spirit to WWE, which we really hadn't seen in a long time,
Yeah.
with the exception of Asuka. But even, she was just a little different, a little more like cartoonish than
Yeah.
Asuka was.
Yeah.
Asuka was like this badass machine, and you had Kyrie was more of like the comic book character, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I really, really dug that. I honestly didn't know if I would at first. Yeah, she really grew on me. So talented in the ring, so easy to connect with the fans, and clearly with her fellow wrestlers, as they've had nothing but well wishes on the way out. And yeah, I think if she ever decides she wants to come back, the door is definitely open.
Yeah, it seems to be that way anyway, which is a good thing. But Kyrie is just someone. She said that they had, like I said before, they had a little like a farewell video on their YouTube channel, and she basically said, "Bon voyage, ahoy to the next chapter," and she's gonna go back to Japan. I know she recently just got married, so hopefully that life treats her nicely as a married woman, and hopefully a family or whatever she wants to do next. But whether she wrestles again, she doesn't wrestle again, I guess is up to one Kairi Sane. But it was just that it was, I mean, 3 years goes fast. It's hard to think that 3 years ago was the first Mae Young Classic and all of that kind of stuff. But I would say a successful time within those 3 years.
Oh, for sure, definitely. I mean, yeah, obviously, I think we're so quick to measure a person's success by, if they had the big solo run, the big championship run at the top of the card. But not everyone could get there. I think Kyrie, I mean, she was an NXT champion, tag champion. She's been in main events. She's been on WrestleMania. She's been a featured player on Raw and obviously on NXT. I think she had a great career, and only in 3 years too.
Yeah,
Some
very
people,
successful.
some people were in NXT for 3 years. Kyrie did a little bit of everything in such a short span of time.
Yeah, she did NXT, she was on SmackDown, she did Raw, she was able to have a successful face and heel run, she main evented a pay-per-view, did first ever women's tag team TLC. I know that was a bit of a mess because of what happened with Kyrie, but it was still a thing that, on paper, she was in it, and she was on the winning team, so I would say a fairly successful time. Royal Rumble, like, she's done pretty much, in 3 years that you would expect to do. And I'm again, selfishly, I'm like, oh, why does she have to leave? But all the best to her, and I'm glad that she is. She said in that video, I'm the happiest woman on earth, and I'm very, very, very happy with my time here and where I go next. So that's really nice. Also, something to note: both Asuka and Kairi Sane's English has improved a great deal in their short times that they've been here. I know Asuka's been a little bit here a little bit longer, but if you look at videos of Kairi and Asuka and even Io when they first started, it shows that they're, to me, learning another language as an adult is not easy. That is a very hard thing to do, but it shows that they're passionate enough to learn another language, to live in another country so far away from their home, to perform and everything like that. That just, it's another part of wrestling that isn't inside the ring that actually helps your wrestling persona, and to put that much passion into doing that along with being away from home and away from your family, along with wrestling and everything else like that. That to me just shows how passionate that person is about wrestling in the WWE or wherever it may be stateside. So I'm just happy for Kyrie and everything like that. Before we touch on our little wrestling awards that we're going to have, we'd be silly not to talk about Two Belts Banks and that happening this week. I know some people have very skewed opinions of having all the championships on two people and everything like that, and the way that it happened. I personally will just say this. I won't spend too much time on this. I like this storyline. To me, it just adds more layers to things. Like, Sasha won via countout. Like, it's not like Asuka, people are throwing around the term Asuka's getting buried because she looks silly. I don't believe that. I don't tap into that philosophy at all. I just think Asuka was choosing her friend over a championship, and I think we're going to see bits where Bayley doesn't do the same for Sasha or whatever it may be, if that was to happen this week on SmackDown or anything. But I'm happy, and I'm glad to see Sasha and Bayley thriving, for one. And not only that, it adds more layers onto Asuka and Sasha. We said last week that if Asuka just won clean, there's really nowhere to go for this. So I'm glad they're adding layers, and also Asuka kind of showing a bit of a different side, because I think Asuka's going to beat the absolute piss out of Sasha Banks. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, Sasha and Bailey everything they touch right now is turning to gold, so it only makes sense to put the belts on. I mean, I don't think they're gonna be there for very long. I think Asuka will get that belt back.
Me too.
And obviously, I think we're all waiting for the eventual implosion between Bailey and Banks. Whether or not it happens sooner or later, who cares? Honestly, because I'm just enjoying the ride.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, with what happened on Monday, I could see I could see it being a little bit of a mixed bag. I think it will be weird that like Asuka, and this is very meta of me to think about, but it is kind of weird that Asuka, she chose her friend over the belt, and I actually like that. I think
Me
that's
too.
very honorable,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that makes her even so much more of a pure face now. But it is weird that Kyrie's not going to be like there anymore. So it's like you went back and you saved your friend, and then your friend just kind of vanishes.
Yeah,
That
I
is
guess
going to be
that's
weird,
yeah.
but I think it'll be worth it because we're gonna all get behind Asuka, and I think she is going to beat the ever living piss out of Sasha Banks.
Yep, and
I
I'm here
honestly,
for
like,
it.
I wouldn't hate like a straight up squash. I know
Me too.
people wouldn't like that, but I think that would be wild. And like Asuka is dangerous, dude. She's the
Yeah,
most
and
lethal striker in the women's division.
here's the thing, like I know like you say squash and stuff like that, but Bailey and Sasha, we said this last week, are just like scumbag heels. I want to see them get beat up. I want to see them get their shit handed to them, and I'm not opposed to that at all. They cheated their way into the championship. They cheated their way into being able to hold all the championships in WWE. So I don't have a problem with this, and it shows a different side to Asuka. It shows different layers to Banks and Bailey. I think we're holding off on Banks and Bailey until we get crowds back, to be completely fair, as we should. I want that match in front of a lot of people. I don't want it in front of just the PC, and I want it to be on a bigger stage. So I'm happy for that. It could go with as many weeks until SummerSlam, so it definitely has room to happen. Don't worry, but I guess we'll see more when Bailey defends against Nikki Cross this week on SmackDown and everything like that. So I have no issue with it at all. I'm happy, to be completely honest, because I don't really think there's too much I like more than Banks and Bailey at the moment, to be completely honest. So I'm happy with everything, but I thought we'd just touch on that before we get into our half-year wrestling awards here on wRestling Reverb. Kev, anything else you want to add to the Bailey, Banks, Asuka, Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss situation that's going on, or should we move on?
Just to reiterate what we've been saying for, I guess this is only the second show back, but what I think everyone's been, I know you've definitely been saying it, I've been saying it, people have been saying it, the women are just carrying the goddamn show right now, and that's just worth noting.
Yep. 100%. Like, not even close. Like, they're just on a different level than everything else at the moment. So, whether that's NXT, whether that's Raw and SmackDown, whatever. I do want to add one more thing because I'm curious to get your opinion on this. We're recording straight after NXT AEW time. But I didn't get a chance to watch the shows this week, but I did see something that happened on Dynamite with one former WWE star, not Zack. I'm not even talking about Zack Ryder, not him. I'm talking about Nyla Rose's partner being the former, now Ariane, but the former Cameron of WWE, which is a surprising person to pop up in AEW because I guess Cameron wasn't really known for. Well, she was learning, I guess, on the job, but she wasn't really known, to be a technical prowess in the ring. But I just want to ask you, when you probably seen that pop up on your Twitter feed at some
absolutely.
stage. What I just remember going, like, what the fuck? Okay, like I'm not opposed to it, but I was just like, what a random person to pop up.
I haven't thought about Cameron or Ariane or whatever. I haven't thought about her. I guess since she left, like the only time she ever has crossed my mind in like the 3 years or so since she left WWE was like the odd occasion where someone will tweet out the video of her on Tough Enough when Stone Cold asked her what her favorite match was. Yep. And she said Melina and Alicia Fox, and he looked like his head was about to fall off his shoulders. Mm-hmm. That's all I remember. That's all I really think about her. she never. I'm not gonna say she was gonna be like the best thing ever. I don't think she really showed that much. But like the Funkadactyls were a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and it felt like the minute we were doing something different with Naomi and Cameron is when she left. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm,
there was
I'm
the turn, wasn't there? Cameron turned on Naomi
there
to break up
was,
the phone.
but like,
And there was like a brief little time where she was wrestling, and then she went to NXT for a hot minute, and then she was gone.
yeah, and like I think we all knew when that team split, when Naomi and Cameron split, we knew where the attention was going to go because Naomi was just this dynamic, athletic, entertaining performer, and not to say that Cameron wasn't, but by comparison,
She was
she
just
was
generic, wasn't she?
yeah,
That would be the word to describe her.
She was the second fiddle of the group, and it happens in groups. And I'm interested to see where they go. I think that's a big heat magnet because you just know the AEW fan
Oh,
is geared towards the wrestling. That's the way they're presenting themselves. So this is like an odd move for them, but it might pay off because that's
hey,
going to
and
be.
not only that, we don't know what Ariane has been doing in these last 3 or 4 years she's been away. She could be training. She could be,
Oh yeah,
whatever. You know what I mean? We don't know what she's been doing in her time away. So I'm all for it. And to add another layer to the women's division is definitely needed within AEW. So hey, all for it. I just wanted to get your opinion because I was like, that is the most random person to pop back up into wrestling.
yeah. I
Honest.
saw. I think it was our buddy Fowl that I saw the first tweet about it, and I was like, I was like, oh, he might just be joking or something. So I looked into it, and I was like, yeah, she popped up.
It's a weird
Yeah,
week. Eva Marie is back in the wrestling bubble hosting some show about female wrestlers on Facebook Live of all things. I was like, oh,
I did not know that.
Yeah, Eva Marie person back in the bubble. I mean, you know how I feel about Eva Marie. I wish she held all the titles.
Remember when Eva Marie went back to NXT? Like,
yes,
that was actually I didn't like. I was not an Eva Marie fan, but that was a good little story, especially when she got the NXT Championship match with Bayley.
It was actually not bad. I remember that match being like, okay,
right. And like, obviously, we saw it play out on Total Divas. Eva trained with Brian Kendrick and was doing some good. She was definitely improving. Yeah. I think that was maybe more of a testament to how good Bayley was as NXT Women's Champ. Yeah. But like, you can't have a match without two people.
It takes two to tango. So I mean, one of the biggest mysteries to me will always be what was going on with Eva Marie in that brief time she was on SmackDown when the drafts first happened, and like her top fell off, and then she couldn't be there, or she couldn't wrestle because she had car troubles, and then obviously she got suspended later on and whatever. Yeah. But she was just a heat magnet. Like, she just generated a reaction that a lot of heels would die to have. Like,
it was so natural with her too. It was great.
I'm not even joking in the slightest. I would love if she popped back up in a Rumble or something like that, just to hear the reaction and people be like, oh shit, it's Eva Marie. I'd be here for it. So who knows, maybe one day. But let's get into some half-year wrestling awards. I know the Bump did something like this, but I didn't honestly watch it. But we're just going to run down who we think's kind of, in our opinions, we won't come to an agreement, but we'll both say our opinions on a few different things. So I guess the first one I need to talk about is the thing that's come to light in 2020, and that's cinematic matches, whether it be in AEW, whether it be in WWE, wherever you're kind of going. In terms of cinematic matches, we've had a lot. We've had the Boneyard match. We've had Money in the Bank. We've had what was the one in NXT, the Hollywood Backlot thing, whatever. It was like the Hollywood Backlot Brawl.
Yeah, I think they called it like a Backlot Brawl,
something like that. We've had the ninjas, the damn ninja one on Backlash. We've had many, but Kevin, in your opinion, out of all of these cinematic matches we've had in the year 2020, whether it be WWE or the AEW one they did with the Stadium Stampede thingo, what has been your personal favorite? What would you say you think has been the best?
Oh man, that is tough, but I think I have a favorite. I have thought about this because obviously, you're like you said, this is the year of the cinematic match, right?
Yeah,
this is the year where we had to basically think outside the box, and some hit, some miss. I'd say more of them hit than missed with me. I think maybe more the more recent ones, just because I'm getting a little used to the format. It's not
You're a little
quite as
tired.
fresh as it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But if I'm picking one, it's tough. I go back to WrestleMania where we were just sort of seeing them for the first time, and you had two very different ones on back-to-back nights. But the one I gravitate towards more is actually probably not what you're thinking. The Firefly Funhouse match.
Really?
Yeah, and I think not initially when they first happened, when we first got those matches, I was team Boneyard because it was just badass, and it was AJ and Taker, which we wanted for X amount of years, and it was great. But like, just thinking about it, the Cena Wyatt stuff was just that whole match was just like a love letter to professional wrestling, and it was a reward for being there from the beginning of Cena's career. You got to see Cena in the really ugly looking bright tights. You got to see the Doctor at Thugonomics. You got to see a what if Cena was like Hulk Hogan and joined the NWO or something similar. And you just got to see all this cool stuff. And it was just like a window into what could have been, what was, and what's to come. And it was also, obviously you had Wyatt dropping the belt beforehand, so that probably hurt it a little bit. But this was definitely kept Wyatt afloat. He just went in there and he made John Cena disappear. He literally banished John Cena. We haven't heard from him. We haven't even seen John Cena on WWE TV, and we probably won't for a while. Yeah. But I just thought that was so much fun, and it was so wacky and bizarre. And I just really liked it. The Boneyard match was fantastic too, and that's probably the consensus number one, and I'm not going to dispute that. But just for the sake of being different and for my own personal preferences, I would go Cena Wyatt and Funhouse.
I can respect that. I don't agree, but I can respect it. My personal favorite of this year has been the Money in the Bank.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it. I remember how psyched you were about it.
I loved it. Whether you want to call it Money in the Banks or Money in the Bank, I don't know if it's technically two matches. I would consider it one match, but I guess technically on paper it's two matches. But I just loved it because it was just the serious side of wrestling, but also the silly side of wrestling in one kind of bubble, which I love. You know how much I love that kind of aspect of wrestling. So to me, the Money in the Bank was just perfect. You had food fights, you had cameos from different people, you had, you had in-ring action at the end when they made their way to the ring, and I really loved that match. I just remember being, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of that match and just being like, this is fun. Like, I'm not thinking about things too much. Dana Brooke falling over on the wet floor was just still one of the funniest things I've seen all year, and I don't know why. And then you just had different elements to it with Otis and AJ and Brian going into Vince McMahon's office and Vince McMahon wearing jeans of all things. Like, I was like, okay, that's weird to me for some reason. And Stephanie and Asuka and Otis winning and just everything about that just screamed what I love about wrestling. I know people probably won't agree with that. People will be like, no.
I really like the Money in the Bank. That was a lot of fun. That was just really, really fun and funny. And it just was like nonstop. It was a pretty long match, and it literally never dipped, never got like a little boring, or there was never really a lull. Every time something happened again, like it just kept happening again and again and again. Baron Corbin literally threw two dudes off the building.
Exactly.
Like he literally chucked Mysterio and Black off the roof of headquarters. Yeah. Like that is just so crazy.
I love it.
That was a really fun one. Yeah. And hey, I mean, you look at that match and you look at where we are now with the women's division with Asuka and Banks and Bayley, and like at least Asuka's angle started there. Yeah. So it wasn't like just a one-off thing. It had implications, and obviously Otis, whenever he decides to cash that briefcase in, there's going to be more. That's going to be more implications of the Money in the Bank match. So it was important. They kept it important. And they kept it like grounded without being too self-serious.
That's what I loved about it the most. That's my pick for the cinematic match of the half year, I guess you would say, so far. The year so far. Something like that.
Yeah,
whatever we want to call it. But in terms of like match of the year that isn't a cinematic match, we have had some bangers, whether it be ones in front of a crowd or not in front of a crowd, I guess determines I guess, where some people would go, but there has been a lot of really good matches this year. And if you do remember, we did have nearly 2 months, well, 2 full months of stuff in front of a crowd before COVID kind of rained down and was.
It feels like forever ago, but we
It really
did. And
does.
I'm constantly reminded that really good stuff happened this year, but it feels like it was not this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, all over the company, man. Like the Rumble was so good. That was 2020, but you don't think about it.
Doesn't feel like it.
That AEW tag match, Hangman and Kenny versus the Bucks, which was so acclaimed, was this year.
Yeah. There's been a lot of really cool stuff that's happened this year that we're a bit, it's a bit drowned with COVID. But Kev, in your opinion, cinematic matches aside, of course, what has been your in-ring match of the year so far?
Oh Christ, that is tough. That is really tough. I'll throw two at you. One, one within the realm of the WWE, and then one from outside. But I think I have to lead off with the greatest wrestling match of all time. And I know that you hear that and you laugh, and Edge and Orton was very good. But I think it was like the best really WWE match of the year. And I would even take it against some of the NXT matches, just because, for one, the sheer implausibility of it. When you have two dudes, Edge, who retired 9 years ago, and Orton, who's been there forever, and they're the main event of a show in 2020 in front of no crowd, and they just went out there and they just no one really knew what we were gonna get, because they tagged it as the greatest wrestling match of all time. We weren't sure if that was a joke, if it was going to be like a ruse, it was going to be like a quick finish or whatever. But it was actually just like an epic match. So you had all the great elements of wrestling from both past years and present years. You had everything you really wanted in a wrestling match, and we got the punt back, so that makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
I remember watching that match at work in the office, and for the first time in a long time, I was like out of my seat, like pacing the room every time there was a false fit, especially when they were throwing like the rock bottom and the pedigree out there. Like, there was a false finish, and I was like sweating. I was so into it, and it hasn't happened for me in a while. So I appreciate what they did, and I think that was probably the best WWE match of the year. And like I said, I would even put that against, there were a lot of great NXT matches, as there always are, but I would put that up above any of them.
Hey, it was the greatest wrestling match ever, quote unquote, but it was very good. I loved it as well. There was nothing but good vibes for me on that match. That is probably my second, but there's something above it that I just adored, and it was the triple threat and NXT takeover in your house. It was Charlotte, Io, and Rhea. I just loved that match. I thought it was just really, really good. There's no really else way to describe it for me than just being a damn good wrestling match. I'm glad it got the opportunity to main event. Io won. Like, there was just a lot of energy around it. And sometimes, I don't know, I guess what saying is like the best wrestling match of the year, or my favorite wrestling match of the year. Like, it's weird. Elements have to come together for me to be a good wrestling match. And just everything kind of came together nicely for that. And I just really liked this. Like, it was just a different three people to be in a triple threat match. I can't put anything above it for me. I just love that match.
Yeah, I'm right. I mean, that was a great match. That was the absolute right choice to main event that pay-per-view, and it delivered on every level. And if that's what it takes, we get Io with a championship belt in her possession. She doesn't need the championship to be great, but she's making that championship great. She's keeping it great, I should say, because the NXT Women's Championship, the lineage is just absurd. Like, just all the people that have held that belt, just the list goes on and on.
It's so prestigious. For a short amount of time, there's been, I think, 10 NXT Women's Champions. And if you actually look at that list, oh boy, there's no one bad in that list. And it's just that.
No, literally is not a bad, like, not even like an average, not even like a transitional champion where you're like, oh, whatever. They're just getting it to somebody else. Everyone that's held that belt has been like the woman, the person on that brand even. Yep. At times, that's been the belt. That's been the number one belt.
Yeah, I agree. And just that match to me is my favorite of the year so far. I know you mentioned something outside of WWE. Do you want to throw it in there?
Yeah, just we get a little bit of New Japan representation on this show today because it would be it would be hard to leave them out of a match of the. They're literally they put up just pure. If that's your bag, if the pure wrestling is what's for you, then that's your place. Then I like it both. I like it both ways. I could never see myself just watching New Japan without
Yeah.
WWE because I think you need the entertainment aspect. I think that's what makes wrestling wrestling. But if I want to just watch two dudes just have like a masterpiece wrestling match, that's where I'll go. And they had Wrestle Kingdom 14 earlier in the year, and like we said, it feels like it was forever ago, but it was this year. And there were so many great matches to choose from. But I think the junior heavyweight championship match, which was Will Ospreay and Hiromu Takahashi, that just took the cake. That was Takahashi's first singles match in like 18 months. He had like the most wicked neck injury at a show in America in 2018. Broke his neck. No one didn't even think he was going to wrestle again. And he comes back. And not only is he wrestling, but he's as good as he's probably one of the best wrestlers on the planet right now. Ospreay, obviously, his accolades precede him. And they just went out and they just put on just an absolute banger of a match. That show had a lot of really great matches, but that was the one that stood out for me. I think it's probably the best pure wrestling match of the year.
Fair. I can't comment because I've never watched it, but I should. I probably should, but it sounds like you're selling me on it, so I probably should watch it.
It's just really, really like fast paced a lot, but it's not like I know the knock on Ospreay for a while, and this was a knock that I held as well, was that he was just doing things for the sake of doing them and not necessarily telling a match story. Yeah. But I think he's gotten so much better. If you remember, we did the Headlock Talk show at the end of the year last year.
Yeah.
And I picked Ospreay as the wrestler of the year, and it was precisely because he went from being a really good spot wrestler to a really good wrestler who just does crazy spots.
Yeah.
And I think that is what made this match for me, was that everything made sense. Everything worked its way into the story. And Takahashi beat him. And I think that's great because I think Ospreay, I like it when he's chasing the belt more so than when he has it, because I feel like when he has it, it's so hard to get it off him over there. That's just my take. And we've gotten a lot of really great stories spun off from that match, especially with Hiromu. And so I just, that whole show, though, Wrestle Kingdom 14, Wrestle Kingdom delivers every year. I didn't like it as much this year because they went 2 nights. I know we've talked about that in regards to WrestleMania because they went 2 nights as well. I would rather a 1-night show over a 2-night show. I think the hype is just unreal, unmatchable on the 1 night. But whatever. And they had 2 good nights. WrestleMania had 2 good nights, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're doing something right.
Yeah. Hey. It was still good either way. I want to say what's your moment of the year, but I'm pretty sure that we can't really look past Edge's return. So that would probably be the moment of the year for both of us.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. Honest to God, I can't even
again. That was this year. Honestly, what the fuck?
I honestly would have, and that men's Royal Rumble just in general is one of the matches of the year so far as well. That was the most unique thing you'll ever see.
Both Rumbles this year actually were really good.
Oh yeah. Oh, you just had the dominance. You had Bianca Belair in the first half of the women's Rumble, and then obviously Lesnar in the first half of the men's Rumble. And then both of them told 2 really good stories. And I just loved once Lesnar got dumped by McIntyre, and it was like, oh, this is a whole new ball game now. You don't know who's going to win.
Really good. Really good.
It was
the
good.
Rumble
And
really
obviously,
good.
you can't not talk about Edge. I mean, dude, that was
will be the moment of the year in the half-year awards, and I can nearly guarantee it'll be the moment of the year at the end of the year, because there's just nothing. That might be my favorite moment ever. Like that, honestly, maybe, because there was nothing. It was just everybody in the room. Like, there's nobody that didn't care. Like, holy fucking shit, it's Edge. So I think it's pretty safe to say that I can speak for you here. That's both of our moment of the year.
Yeah. I'll never forget it, man. That was. I remember the Rumble was the day Kobe Bryant passed away. So I watched it with a bunch of my friends. It was a very somber room. Everyone was still kind of feeling that.
I remember waking up and being like, oh my God, that happened today of all days. And it's
Yeah,
like,
it's
holy
just
shit.
really, really sad. And then, but wrestling is an escape. We've talked about it, and so we sat there and we watched the Rumble, and goddamn it, Edge, man, 9 years retired, such a sad retirement. I think we all remember watching that when he announced it. That was terrible. That was so sad. But he's got a new lease on his career, and he came in and he just spearing the shit out of people. And you
Yep.
had the moment with Edge and Orton, in the Rumble. We didn't know what it was going to lead to at the time. It led to a lot of great stuff, but
Yep.
just seeing those two together in the ring and seeing Edge with Rollins in there, Edge with Styles in there, with McIntyre in there, Ziggler in there, just so many doors open that night. You saw all these potential one-on-ones, and we've got years to go because I just 3 years inked, I believe, and obviously he's out now, but he'll be back. That's the thing. He's gonna come back from this injury and wrestle matches again, and you couldn't say that before this year. So yeah, Edge is the moment of the year. He's the man of the year. He's the guy of the year.
Yep, we can't look past Edge's return. 2 more awards we're going to kind of give out on our own personal opinion. We'll start with the male wrestler of the year, whether it be in WWE or anywhere you want to go. Kev, when it comes to the dudes, who's your kind of person that's been like, yeah, they've done the best this year so far?
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm going to throw out another 2, but I definitely am putting one above the other. So my runner-up would be going back to Japan. I think Shingo Takagi has had a great year. I'm not going to touch on it too much because he's not my number one, but he's had a great year, and he's just beating the piss out of people every show, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun to watch. That's my favorite that's my favorite style they do in Japan, because you have the juniors that fly around, and you have the main event guys who put on like the opera style matches that are really great. But then you have those dudes who get in there and just beat the hell out of each other, and that's my favorite style of New Japan-esque wrestling, and he does that so well. So he's my number 2. But goddamn, man, Keith Lee has just been unbelievable this year. I don't think he's missed, whether it be NXT TV or Takeover. I don't think he's whiffed. I think he's just been so good. And obviously it dates back to last year. And obviously the rub he got at Survivor Series was huge from Roman, and just being in that match at Survivor Series and getting that rub. But God, man, he's been so good. That match with Dijakovic, oh God, so good, dude. I could watch that match over and over from Takeover Portland.
Really good.
And then he wins. He's got the NXT North American title. Now he's the NXT champion. He's won all the belts. He's held all the belts. He's had good matches with the likes of everybody, and I think he's just put so much stock in himself, man. I think his stock has just gone through the friggin' roof.
Yeah.
It is not a small thing. Adam Cole might be the best NXT champion ever. You can make that case. He held the belt forever. He beat so many talented people. He had so many of the greatest matches you'll ever see with that belt. And just Keith Lee just took it from him. And there's something huge to that. And I think it's even harder. I think you have to give Lee an edge because we're doing it in this weird era of wrestling where it's even harder to get yourself over because there's no crowd to cheer you.
Yeah.
So I think he's just done everything right, and I think Keith Lee's the guy. I think Keith Lee's the wrestler of the year, male wrestler of the year.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll agree with you, to be completely honest, because I don't think there's been anyone better than Keith Lee when it comes to the dudes. I just don't. For all the reasons you just said before, I won't even waste anyone's time with even, just reiterating what you said. But I agree. Keith Lee has just had a stellar year from beginning until now. So I'll go Keith Lee as well. I guess we'll agree on one at least.
Yeah, I just the main roster, there's really nobody that's been at the peak for this whole year. I just had a great year, but he's been hurt and he hasn't been, he's only had like 2 matches. Keith Lee's doing it every damn week.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now we'll end with the ladies. Female wrestler of the year. I don't think we're going to agree, and that is completely fine, because I have a feeling I know who you're going to say. But Kev, when it comes to the ladies, we'll say this again. We said it last week. We said it in this show. The women in general they've just captivated me way more than any. There's a lot more names to be thrown in the hat here for who is the female wrestler of the year. Like, there's so many that I can throw in when the dudes are a little bit more scattered, and I'm like, okay, these few have been at the top, and then the rest is at the bottom. When it comes to the women, there's a lot that you could argue for being number one. When it comes to the women, Kev, though, who is your go-to pick?
Well, this is hard. I hope you say you think you know who I'm gonna pick. I don't know if you're thinking Tegan Knox, but that's not my pick.
I wasn't thinking Tegan Knox. Can I tell you who I think you're gonna pick?
Yeah,
Asuka.
No,
Oh,
but like she's probably 2.
okay.
I know. I'm gonna pick someone who I don't want to say she fell off, but she was gone for a little bit. I think people were sort of sleeping on her, sort of forgetting what she brings to the table. Sasha Banks, literally like the best in the world. I've always loved Sasha, and I think she just had like a renaissance of a year. She's just, obviously, you look at all the women involved in like the tag title / Raw and SmackDown women's title scene right now. Just basically
all of them.
all the main event females right now on the main roster. And there's like 6 or 7 of them.
Yep.
And they all are deserving of a look at this award.
Yep.
I think all of them, from Banks and Bayley to Bliss and Cross. I think all of them, and obviously Asuka. Kyrie has had a great run, obviously no longer with the company, but you wouldn't be wrong if you threw her in the conversation too. And then obviously Charlotte is always going to be in the mix.
Yep.
But Sasha, just I give the edge to Sasha because I think she makes it must see. I think she is a bit more. I think like you hear Sasha Banks is on the card, I think you tune in, man.
Yep.
I think you tune in with Asuka and Bayley too, but I think Sasha's got I think Sasha's just a bona fide superstar. Yeah. I think she's got mainstream appeal to her, honest to God. I think she could be in movies. I think she could be in commercials. But I think she's also just like a fantastic wrestler. And I just think she's been doing such great work, and I think she's made a believer out of everybody again. Damn. If anyone doubted her, because she wasn't winning, she wasn't in the main event scene for a while there. She was off for a couple of months after WrestleMania, but she came back, started kicking ass, and she's kicked so much ass this year. So Sasha Banks is my pick.
Damn, you are selling the crap out of her, which is fine because she's definitely on that list for me. She's definitely one that I'm like, ooh, is it her? Is it Io Shirai? Not quite. Is it Asuka? Not quite. There's been no one better than this year than Bayley. She started the year as women's champion. She's still the women's champion. There's no signs of her slowing down. She's currently a tag champion along with Sasha Banks. Bayley has had the best year. She hasn't lost on pay-per-view this year, I just want to add. I just want to throw that in there. Every single pay-per-view she's wrestled on, she's been a winner. She is, to me, a great heel champion, and she's reinvented herself in the last 365 days. Not only that, she's been SmackDown Women's Champion pretty much since she won at Money in the Bank, with the exception of like a few days with Charlotte winning. She has been the top dog on SmackDown. She is currently on 3 shows along with Sasha Banks. I just feel like she edges out Sasha just a little tiny bit with just, at the end of the day, win-loss record. There's not a lot of times where Bayley actually loses when you think about it. Bayley doesn't lose that much. And I guess at the end of the day, you want to be winning if you're in a wrestling match. I know wrestling's wrestling, but I guess you want to win. It would probably feel pretty good. Bayley, to me, has been the best. There's just been no one better than Bayley. I think out of, the women's division, there is better workers than Bayley. I think there's flashier workers with Bayley, but Bayley is a very underrated, great base in the ring, and she's also someone that all round, even if you just look at the 4 horsewomen, all round, I think she's the most technically sound. Yes, Becky is probably better in some areas. Sasha's more flashy. Charlotte Flair is probably more of a star. But Bayley, to me, is the perfect person that can work with anybody. you can throw her in there and she can just get something good out of everybody. When I think maybe she's a little more balanced in that way than some of the others who have, their peaks in other areas. But I just think Bayley's been the best, personally.
It's hard. It is hard to disagree. I think my only basis in picking Sasha, because when you look at the accolades, when you look at the days as champ, and you look at the win losses and all that, it is Bayley. The numbers are skewed for Bayley. I just think Sasha. Sasha has just more of a presence to her. I think she's found that presence again.
I understand that.
That's why I give the edge to Sasha, because I think she's just had a big bounce back year, and I respect the hell out of that. But yeah, honestly, you could link them together and make them both co-women of the year, because I think that's how they would prefer it.
Yeah, honestly. Well, I don't know. I think deep down, those two egos get in the way, and I think that's. Well, let me just sell the story here. But
that's going to be the story at some point. Like it does write itself. They do have huge egos, and someone's going to step on someone's toes, and I can't wait for it. As much as I love them together, man, I love to watch them work.
I'm enjoying the ride, but I'm very excited for the destination here, because we know what they can do. We've seen what they can do. It is, oh man, and just to see whoever, it seems to be pretty, to me at least, I see Sasha being the face here and Bayley being the heel, but we could easily go either way here. I wouldn't be opposed to it either way, and I think it would work either way, because I understand that some people aren't the biggest fans of Bayley as a heel. I love Bayley as a heel. I think she's a fantastic heel. I would happily see Bayley as a heel for as long as time allowed it, because I'm really here for it. I understand. I don't know exactly how you feel as Bayley as a heel, but I'm really into it. But then again, I love Banks. To me, is a heel. She's just a natural. They're both really good at being heels.
That's the thing. It's like, I feel like Banks is like born to be a heel, but I think Bayley has played herself. I think she's put WWE in a corner here, because I think she's been so good as a villain. So conventionally you would think Bayley would be the face and Sasha would be the heel, because that's how it was, and Bayley is a great face as well. But she's been so good as a bad guy, it's hard to ignore that and just be like, well, we're gonna turn her back. I think the best route is to have her stab Sasha in the back and stomp her out and do that. I think that's the best way to do it. It's a different dynamic than we saw 5 years ago, which I think is like the only way you could improve on what they did in NXT is to switch up the roles.
That's the only way, because otherwise it would just be a carbon copy of what they did, and that's never a good thing. Let's just throw that out there. They got a lot of pressure on those two. There's a lot of pressure there, but we'll see. I guess
literally just casually delivered the greatest NXT match of all time.
My favorite match ever is that. So I just it's going to be a lot of expectation there. Will they deliver? We'll see. I guess time will tell. But to me, Bayley's just been that little bit better, but I guess it's all subjective. And to me, there's whoever you kind of said is the female wrestler of the year, superstar of the year, whatever you want to call her. You could pretty much there's a long list of people you could be like, well, that person's been the best. So I'd sit here and argue it for days. I think would be here for if we did that. But to be honest, I understand that 2020's been shit. There's no really way to cookie cut that. It's been terrible, but there has been still a lot of good wrestling in the time, and I understand that replay value of this thing, even with the PC crowd to no crowd, it's a big difference. That's kind of tipped my hat a little bit with some things, because I know some people be like, what about Charlotte Rhea at WrestleMania? And to me, it's like, that's a great match, but that would have been so much better if there was a live audience of some kind in there.
Yeah.
Especially now that I'm used to watching it with a small audience, it does make a hell of a lot of difference. So there's just been some things. I understand 2020's been a bit terrible, but there has still been some good moments within wrestling in 2020. So I guess we can be appreciative of that. But it's been fun talking about this kind of stuff and just thinking, okay, this did happen in 2020 and it didn't happen 6 years ago as it felt. But it's been fun, and there's a lot more to look forward to. And I think as we go through COVID, who really knows when this thing is gonna It just seems to be getting worse as we even speak. So, who knows what will really bring with the rest of the year, these last few months left of the year. I can't believe we're already in August. What the actual shit is going on? But we're nearly in August, I should say. But who knows what will happen with the rest of the year? I really don't know what to expect. If 2020's taught us anything, Kevin, is that literally anything can happen. Anything.
Yeah, I don't even want to think. It's like August just brings a new month for something to happen.
Yep.
Honestly, like, yeah, it's something every month, and you're just like, oh, what's it gonna be for August? You know, we'll see.
Aliens will probably come to Earth next, because
Probably.
I mean, what else would really surprise us? So that's been this week, though, everybody, for Wrestling Reverb. Feel free, if you're watching on YouTube, or tweet at us on Twitter, or tweet the Reverb Radio account with your picks for what has been some of the best moments of the year, or best stuff of the year so far of what we discussed. If you want to throw anything at us, go ahead. We're all ears. I'll try to respond to anything I can. If you do, of course, you continue to support us with all the links in the description below, both mine and Kevin's Twitter, all of my links on my Linktree. Feel free to pop into my Twitch streams. They've been a lot of fun playing Here Comes the Pain again. A fun wrestling game, and I've had more interaction on there than I ever could imagine in just the couple of streams I've done this week. So I've got some more coming up later in the week. I'm actually going to be streaming while SmackDown's on, because SmackDown isn't the greatest. So if you want to just get some wrestling content in on a Friday night / Saturday morning, wherever you are in the world, feel free to stop by. I'm streaming while SmackDown's on, and I'm just going to play some Here Comes the Pain, which, you know, Kevin, you could probably attest to if you ever tune into SmackDown. It's very hit or miss lately. That's one.
Yeah, I don't even tune into SmackDown.
I don't blame you. I really can't. I can't defend that one. SmackDown isn't great, so I'm just gonna play games instead.
It's sad because I was just like a big SmackDown guy growing up, and when the brand split back in 2016, I was like, I'm a SmackDown guy now. And
Me too.
And it was so good for a while. And, you know, all good things must. You know, nothing could stay.
Hey, everything goes through peaks and valleys, so hopefully we'll get to another good spot. You'd think with SmackDown on Fox, you'd think they'd try and do a little bit better.
When we get crowds back, everything's going to be great. Everything is going to seem really great again.
Optimistic. I like that. But anyway, yeah, feel free to hang out on my Twitch stream. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure we can, if you want to talk about SmackDown with me, I'm sure I'll keep up to date on Twitter while I'm streaming. Come hang out. It's a lot of fun. Until next week, though, if you're not listening to any other Reverb Radio, easy for me to say, shows, you can, of course, catch Wrestling Reverb next Friday. We'll be back, of course, with some more wrestling chat. Until then, though, everybody, stay safe. Peace out, everyone.